Okay, buckle up because we're diving deep into a topic that's woven into the fabric of human experience.
Hmm.
Gift giving. I mean, it's everywhere, right? Throughout history, across cultures.
It really is universal. Anthropologists have found evidence of gift giving in every culture they've studied. It's remarkable.
It makes you wonder, why is that? What is it about giving gifts that's so fundamental to being human?
It's a great question. And there's a fascinating story about anthropologist Gary Chapman himself. While he was studying the Carib Indians on this island, Dominica, they actually presented him with a freshly cut coconut as like a gesture of welcome and friendship.
A coconut, that's not your average welcome gift.
Right. And it perfectly illustrates the point. It wasn't about the coconut itself. It was the thought behind it. And that gets to the heart of gift giving as a love language. It's about recognizing what your partner needs and showing them you care enough to put in the effort.
So let's talk about this idea of love languages. Some people listening might be new to that term. What does it actually mean?
Well, at its core, it means we all experience and express love in different ways. For some, it's words of affirmation. For others, quality time. And for some, it's those tangible tokens of affection gifts. You know how children instinctively give gifts?
Oh, absolutely.
They bring home like a little dandelion or a shiny rock because to them, it's precious. And they want to share it with someone they love.
It's so true. It's like their way of saying, I thought of you.
Yes, exactly. And then as we get older, those gestures evolve. They become more symbolic. Well, what's the classic example? I mean, what's the ultimate symbolic gift?
Wedding rings.
Wedding rings, exactly.
They really are a powerful symbol of love and commitment.
And even in breakups,
Yeah.
even when a relationship's ending, taking off those rings, it's just loaded, isn't it?
It's like this huge weight of emotion, but without saying a word.
There's this very poignant story in Chapman's book that illustrates this perfectly. A husband described how during an argument, this wife, she throws her wedding rings at him. And he said he couldn't bring himself to pick them up for 2 days. And then when he finally did, he couldn't stop crying.
Wow. Yeah. It really highlights how much emotion we attach to these objects. It's like they become vessels for our feelings and experiences.
Absolutely. And like all love languages, the importance of receiving gifts, it differs from person to person.
Right.
Some people, it's central to how they feel loved. Others, not so much. Have you ever gotten a gift and it was just so you? Like the person giving it just got you.
Oh, for sure. And it really does make you feel seen, doesn't it? Like really understood. And what's funny is that it doesn't even have to be a big, expensive thing.
You're so right. The best gifts aren't always about the cost. Sometimes it's a handmade gift, an experience you share. Even a handwritten note can mean the world. It's all about speaking the other person's love language. And, for some people, that might be acts of service, right? Or words of affirmation.
Totally. Speaking of those more like tangible gifts, there's this story in the book, Jim and Janice, that really gets at this. Janice is feeling completely unloved, like Jim's just not getting her.
And what's interesting is that Jim thinks he's doing everything right. He's providing for the family. They have a nice home.
But he's missing something. He's not speaking her love language.
Exactly. He's just clueless about the fact that Janice, she needs those tangible expressions of love. She needs those gifts. But here's the thing. There's a turning point in their relationship. Jim starts giving Janice these small, consistent gifts.
So not these huge, grand gestures, but just these little everyday things.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And it makes a world of difference because it shows Janice that Jim is making the effort. He's trying to learn her language.
That reminds me, there's this great tip in the book about giving small, consistent gifts. Have you ever tried that?
Yeah, it's definitely worth trying, especially if you know that's something your partner values. Those little gestures can be surprisingly powerful.
For sure. And, speaking of powerful gestures, what about the idea of the gift of self? I feel like we don't talk about that enough.
You're so right. Sometimes the most precious thing you can give someone is just being there, especially when times are tough. There's this really powerful story in the book about this woman. Her husband had just passed away. And she asks her supervisor for the day off, to go to the funeral. And the supervisor, get this, tells her she'll lose her job if she does.
No way. Are you serious? That's awful.
It's just heartbreaking. But you know what? Her response is incredible.
Yeah.
She just looks at her supervisor and says, my husband is more important than my job.
Good for her.
She knew her priorities. Being there for her husband, even in his passing, that was what mattered.
Absolutely. That takes a lot of courage, too. And it's a good reminder that sometimes the best gift we can give really is our time, our attention, our presence. But it does make you wonder, why is it so hard for some people to give love in the way their partner needs? Have you noticed that?
Right. And that's why communication is just essential. I mean, if receiving gifts is your primary love language, you can't just assume your partner will magically know that. You have to tell them.
Yeah, you can't expect them to be a mind reader.
Exactly. Chapman really emphasizes this. Clear communication. It's key to any strong relationship, but especially when it comes to like really understanding each other's needs, emotionally.
Totally. So are there any practical tips in the book? Like if someone wants to get better at this whole gift-giving thing, where do they start?
Oh, definitely. Chapman gives a ton of great advice. He even calls them like practical tips for becoming fluent in the love language of gifts.
I love that. What are some of them?
Well, one that I think is really fun, he calls it a parade of gifts.
A parade? Okay, I am intrigued. Tell me more.
So it's basically surprising your partner throughout the day with little tokens of affection. Like you could leave them like, I don't know, some of their favorite candy in the morning.
Okay, I'm already on board. What's next?
Then you could maybe have some flowers delivered to them in the afternoon, unless they have allergies, of course. And then in the evening, surprise them with something they've had their eye on. Like it's all about sprinkling those little gestures throughout the day, just to show you're thinking of them.
It's like saying, I love you all day long, not just once.
Yes, exactly. And the best part is, it doesn't have to break the bank. It's truly the thought that counts.
So true. Speaking of thoughtful gifts, what are some other ways to make gift giving more meaningful? Besides the parade, there's got to be more.
Right. Well, Chapman talks about this idea of letting nature be your guide.
Okay, what does that even mean?
So like next time you're out for a walk or at the beach, just keep an eye out for something, special, something you could bring back for your partner.
Oh, I like that. It's like finding little treasures in unexpected places.
Exactly. But maybe it's a unique stone or a beautiful feather or an interesting piece of driftwood, something like that. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but the fact that you saw it and thought of them makes it special.
That is so true. It shows you're present, you're paying attention, and you could even like attach a deeper meaning to it, like this stone represents the strength of our love or whatever.
I love that. It becomes more than just an object then, right? It represents something deeper.
Exactly. It's all about the thought behind it, the intention. You know what else I love? Handmade gifts. There's something so special about those.
Oh, for sure. Chapman's a big advocate for creating something yourself, too.
Yeah.
He even talks about like taking a class to learn a new skill. Pottery, woodworking.
Imagine giving someone a gift that you put your heart and soul into making.
Right. I mean, that would be a treasured possession, a reminder of the effort, the love behind it.
It really becomes a symbol of your love, all that time and effort.
Exactly. And that actually reminds me of another tip from the book. Give your partner a gift every day for a week.
Oh, I like that. What a fun challenge.
Right. It doesn't have to be anything big, just those little gestures that show you care. And speaking of keeping track of things, there's another good one in here. Chapman says to keep a gift idea notebook.
A gift idea notebook? What is that?
So simple. Whenever you hear your partner mention something they like, jot it down.
Oh, that's smart. So that way, when a birthday or anniversary rolls around.
Exactly. You've got a whole list of ideas. No more scrambling for last-minute gifts.
Love it. Okay, but what about those of us who are, shall we say, gift-giving challenged? Any advice for us hopeless cases?
Chapman actually suggests, like phoning a friend, or, well, asking someone who knows your partner really well, maybe family member or close friend, see what ideas they have.
Oh, that's a good tip, because sometimes you just need a fresh perspective.
Exactly. And honestly, who doesn't love helping to pick out the perfect gift?
Especially when they're not the one paying for it. Okay, so we talked earlier about the gift of presents. Are there any, concrete ways to, to bring more of that into our relationships?
Definitely. He has this one suggestion, he calls it, like offering the gift of your presence. At any event or occasion, they might want you there for. And get this, for an entire month.
Wow, now that's commitment.
Right. It could be anything from a work thing they'd normally go to alone, or maybe there's an art exhibit they've been wanting to see, even if it's not really your thing.
It's about just showing up, right? For the things that matter to them.
Yes, being present, engaging in their life and experiences.
Which can sometimes be the greatest gift of all. Well, before we wrap things up, do you have one final golden nugget of wisdom for us? Something to remember about this whole love language of gifts?
I do. Give your partner a book on a topic they're interested in, something they really want to read. And here's the key, read it too. That way you can discuss it together.
Oh, I love that. It's like creating a shared experience, but through reading.
Right. It shows you're truly interested in their passions.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the gift itself, but about connecting on a deeper level.
So well said. It's like learning to speak a new language, even if it doesn't come naturally at first. This whole deep dive has been amazing. We covered so much ground, the history, the psychology, all those practical tips. What do you hope listeners take away from all of this? What's the biggest thing?
I think just remembering that gift giving, when it's done right, it's about so much more than just like stuff. It's about really understanding your partner, connecting with them, and making them feel loved, truly loved and appreciated.
Beautifully said. It's about learning to speak their love language, even if it's not our native tongue. So, on that note, what are some unique ways you can gift your presence to those you care about? It doesn't have to be anything big, remember. Even small gestures can speak volumes. Until next time, keep those love tanks full.